Hello, my name is Matt, and welcome to This Week at the Movies. We have a huge week for movies. This features the return of Star Wars to theaters, the first original Star Wars film to debut in theaters since Rise of Skywalker in 2019. But that is only part of a packed week for movies, both in theaters and on the small screen. So let's dive in. And first up is definitely the Star Wars film the Mandalorian and Grogu. This one, a feature film that is a continuation of the TV series that ran 3 seasons on Disney Plus. It kicked off in 2019. Its third season aired in 2023. So it's been a little while since we've seen our heroes, the Mandalorian and his sidekick Grogu, sometimes referred to as the baby, on screen together. This adventure picks up with the Mandalorian serving as a bounty hunter for the New Republic, helping to track down former Imperial officers and criminals. Grogu, still his ward, serving as his assistant. We kick off with a kind of big action set piece as he's trying to track down his latest fugitive. Then he goes and checks in with the New Republic. He's being run by Colonel Ward, played by Sigourney Weaver, who gives him a new assignment to find a Imperial officer that they don't even have a picture for. So the Hutts have offered to help, but first he has to do something for them, and that is to free their nephew, Rada the Hutt, voiced by Jeremy Allen White, who is Jabba the Hutt's son. But as always, things are not what they appear. The Mandalorian's conscience pops up. He completes his original task for the New Republic, but does it without honoring his agreement with the Hutts, which puts him into some hot water, and then action occurs. This is kind of nonstop action. It is a fun romp. If you enjoyed the series, you're going to enjoy this film. This is really kind of a little bit like the series writ large in a longer episode. This movie clocks in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. The episodes used to be about 30 minutes. So you can see where this overall might have been in its entirety like another season that was like 6 or 8 episodes that they kind of shrunk down to make into feature film length. There's good action throughout. There are some fun sequences. You're introduced to some new characters, some new creatures. It really allows some time for Grogu to shine, to grow in his gifts, to grow in his relationship with the Mandalorian. We do see Pedro Pascal briefly. He, of course, always voices the Mandalorian, not always in that suit, but there are a few sequences where Din Djarin loses his helmet again. You know, that helmet always seems to come off. It's like they want you to know that Pedro is there. This one, I'm giving it a thumbs up for what it is. I don't think it's incredible. I don't think it's probably one of the more iconic Star Wars films either, but I've always had a soft spot in my heart for The Mandalorian and for this world. And this was pretty much everything I thought it was going to be. It is a fun summer blockbuster. It is a fun ride. It is probably fun for the whole family, maybe a touch scary at times for the smallest of viewers, but overall, it is a pretty fun ride. The action and violence is not very graphic, as you might expect from Star Wars. Again, not the most incredible or iconic of Star Wars films. In fact, in my overall Star Wars movie rankings, I have this one fairly low. This feels a little bit more on the kids' film cycle, kind of like an episode 1, if that gives you a feel for it. But that isn't always a bad thing. And I had a good time here. That is kind of what you're looking for. Maybe not the grand triumphal return of Star Wars to the big screen some people were looking for, but maybe we've entered this new phase where they're going to try to have some fan-friendly and some kid-friendly stuff. You know, we have Starfighter coming next year. I have some high hopes for that. So we will see how it all progresses. If you're looking for something a little bit more deep and maybe a little bit more adult, Boots Riley has his new film, I Love Boosters, which was also a wide release this week. And let me just say, this is the most colorful film of the year. This follows a group of friends led by Kiki Palmer, Taylor Page, and Naomi Aki, who are used to boosting or shoplifting high-end fashion merchandise and selling it off to support themselves. They've targeted one designer and franchise in particular, the designer played by Demi Moore. And it kind of kicks off a war of words between her and the group, and they start escalating. This is a wild story with some wild plot turns that you won't expect. I won't ruin any of that here. It is really almost defies description. Boots Riley films are an experience. He did Sorry to Bother You on the small screen. He had a Prime Video series, Vigo, that was very much kind of about that. Some great performances, some wild use of colors. This is the most colorful film. I really enjoyed the score. I loved the fashion, the design, the production design, the way everything kind of popped off the screen here. And I had fun as a ride. I'm giving this one a solid thumbs up. This is a really fun film. Really wild, some very quirky plot twists and turns, some very quirky things in the plot of this film. Maybe it won't resonate the same way for everyone, but I had a good time with this. And I think if you're looking for kind of a fun adventure and something that feels very different and original, this is a great way to go. Next up, another movie that feels pretty original. The kind of, I don't know, is it a horror film? Is it a revenge drama? It is God Is. This one comes from Alicia Harris. She wrote and directed this based on her play of the same name. It is about a pair of sisters who were permanently scarred by a fire set by their father when they were young women. Now they are mature adults. They are summoned by their mother, played by Vivica A. Fox, and she asks them to hunt down and kill their father. As kind of a last gift to her. The twins, played by Carrie Young and Mallory Johnson, they do a great job in the lead role. I was really moved by Sterling K. Brown, who plays their father. This is kind of an interesting road movie. You meet different people from his life along the way. Janelle Monáe pops up, Erica Alexander, Michael T. Williams. This is a good cast, a very interesting story. I'm giving this one a thumbs up. It goes in some unexpected directions. It has a very unique sense of style and storytelling. Again, probably won't be for everyone, but I think this is a different kind of monster movie. You know, sometimes we think of monsters as these big supernatural creatures that come and wreak havoc, but there can be monsters in our everyday lives that do the same thing, that leave lasting scars and wreak havoc on our lives, both in the past and moving forward. And that's certainly the case for these two girls. This is about them freeing themselves of that monster and of the way that it has held them back. A very moving story at times, feels very original, something worth checking out. Another film that's in limited release starting this week is Saccharine. This one will also be part of the IFC Shudder experience. This one follows a young girl, Hannah, played by Midori Francis, who is struggling with weight and body image issues while she's also starting medical school. A friend turns her on to a new set of pills, and after testing them, she determines that they are comprised of human ashes. And I know that is what I am racing out to swallow and put in my body. But she decides to go ahead and make her own version of the pill, and it has its own unique and depressing side effects. This one, an interesting enough idea. There are some very strong, creepy, over the top visuals, especially as we get kickstarted. This one comes from writer director Natalie Erica James. She previously worked on Apartment 7A, which was the Paramount Plus prequel to Rosemary's Baby. She also worked on Relic. I've appreciated some of the craft and some of the swings in those movies, but they did not totally work for me. And that is the same case here. This movie feels also a little bit too long. It is almost 2 full hours. And there are some repetitive sequences. It feels like it takes a long time to get where it's going. And by the end, you're deeply unsettled. And deeply unsettling is a lot of times what they're going for in horror movies. That's not always a bad thing. But this just didn't totally work for me. I'm giving this one a mild thumbs down. I know what they were trying to do. It just ends up more creepy and gross than scary. And that doesn't always work that well either. Performances are okay. The story had some promise, but like I said, kind of peters out in the end and just ends up being deeply unsettling. Well, that's some theatrical options. We also have a couple of big streaming films. The first of which is the Netflix offering Ladies First. This one, the comedy starring Sacha Baron Cohen as Damian Sachs, a very uh, type A alpha male misogynist who is working for a PR and advertising company. I know it's really hard to believe that he would fill in that role. Working directly for the CEO, played by Charles Dance, he is set to inherit the mantle of CEO, but first they need to have a female on a creative team in order to keep Guinness as a big client. So he offers a promotion in name only to Alex Fox, played by Rosamund Pike. But when she realizes that her ideas and her entire presence is not being taken seriously, she decides to quit and walk out. When he's trying to chase her to keep her in tow, he slips, hits his head, and when he wakes up in an alternate world where women are the dominant force running everything, and he has been relegated to second class and often overlooked because of his gender. Kind of a little bit of a flip that's meant to open his eyes, help him learn to be a better person, to earn his way back. Kind of a simple setup. You know where it's going. You get the idea. A very solid cast here, including the ones I already mentioned. Richard E. Grant is in here. Catherine Hunter has some fun roles. Fiona Shaw plays a really fun part. Emily Mortimer pops up as his sister. That's also as Sacha Baron Cohen's sister. That's also pretty fun. There are some wild sequences. There are some fun moments in this. It kind of, you know how it's going. You know what the arc and trajectory is going to be. But it's only an hour and a half. It moves at a good pace. Sacha Baron Cohen is fine in the lead role. His back and forth with Rosamund Pike works pretty well. I had a better time with this than I was expecting. I didn't have big expectations, and it's not an incredible film, but it is a fun little streaming watch. I'm giving it a mild thumbs up. I had a good time with it. I thought it was amusing. I thought they did a decent job with what they were trying to do. So if you're looking for a comedy, something that you can just throw on at home, this is a nice Memorial Day weekend offering. The other big streamer, this one dropped on Wednesday, and that is Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan Ghost War, the most pretentious title possible. Of course, Jack Ryan was the long-running 4-season series on Prime Video starring John Krasinski as the titular Jack Ryan. This one picks up after the events of that series. Admiral Greer is serving as deputy director of the CIA, played by Wendell Pierce. Jack Ryan is working as a civilian, but when Greer picks him up and asks for a favor, it pulls Jack right back into the action. He's once again teamed with Mike November, played by Michael Kelly, and he's joined by a British agent, Emma Marlowe, played by Sienna Miller, and they have they have a terrorist to track down, they have a plot to foil, and all of it goes back to a program that Greer was running when he was an operative alongside some fellow British agents. And so not too complex of a plot. This one just an hour and 47 minutes. So it moves at a good pace, has plenty of action. If you were a fan of the show, this kind of drops you back in. It does feel a little bit like an extended episode, or maybe like a small 1 to 3 episode arc of the show put into a film. It was basically a reason to get Jack Ryan back into the action. I will say, you know, whenever you have continuations of a series, a reboot or a film or something like that, it has to undo some of the happy endings. We saw that earlier this year. If you were a Yellowstone fan, when it launched Marshalls and all of a sudden Casey Dutton's wife had died off screen, was the impetus for him getting back into the action of being a U.S. Marshal. Well, that's some of the case here for Jack Ryan. There was really no happy ending. His personal life kind of takes the hit so that he can get back in here. And this does feel a little bit like a way of just putting the band back together and maybe ending in a place where they could set up some more future one-off film installments. And you know what? I would probably still watch. This was not the greatest, most compelling story or villain, but I love John Krasinski in this role. I like his dynamic with Wendell Pierce and Michael Kelly. I thought Sienna Miller was solid here. So this one getting a mild thumbs up as well. If you're looking for just kind of a nice streaming action film, or if you are a fan of the TV show, this is going to be something that is worth checking out. Well, that'll do it for us for new releases for this Memorial Day weekend. But never you fear, there is a big week coming next week. Nate Bargatze will be in theaters with his latest comedy. We also have the interesting horror movie Backrooms and the World War II drama Pressure. So a lot of movies opening in theaters. Also, Tuner, a movie that I talked about last month when it was in the Film Festival in Boulder, will be making a limited to wide release starting next weekend. So we'll talk about that again as well, and any other things that pop up. So looking forward to that. But until then, if you're a Star Wars fan, get out there, check out The Mandalorian and Grogu. And until next week, we will see you at the movies.